You can tell a lot about a man by the way he treats something that no longer shines. That thought came to me one winter morning when frost covered everything I owned. The kind of cold that makes the world stop moving, like it's holding its breath before something breaks. The coffee on the counter had gone cold before I even touched it. Steam no longer rose from the cup, only the faint scent of roasted beans hanging in the quiet. The house around me was still too clean, too empty. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort you, just reminds you what's missing. I pulled on my old flannel, the one with the tear near the elbow, and stepped outside. The air bit through the seams of my coat. My breath came out in clouds, each one disappearing faster than the last. The old Ford waited by the curb, half buried in snow, its blue paint dulled by time, but still honest. Frost glazed the windshield, turning the glass into a mirror I didn't want to look at. I brushed it with my sleeve's slow circles, revealing a small window to the world. The engine coughed twice, like it had something to say, but changed its mind. Then it found its rhythm, that uneven hum I'd heard for half my life. It filled the silence, steady and imperfect like a heartbeat that refuses to quit. I sat there for a moment, my hands on the wheel, the smell of old leather and pine from the air freshener mixing with cold air. The heater hadn't even kicked in yet, but I didn't care. There was a strange peace in that sound, a comfort only something imperfect can give. I didn't know it then, but that morning would ask me one simple question. How far can love and dignity drive when pride runs out of gas? The morning air bit through the seams of my coat as I stepped outside. Frost had built a thin shell across the windshield, catching the weak light from the porch bulb. I brushed it away with the sleeve of my flannel slow circles that revealed a narrow slice of the world ahead. The old Ford coughed once, then again, before settling into that familiar, uneven hum. Mary used to hum while I scraped the glass. Sometimes I still paused, half expecting to hear her. The silence that followed was sharp, the kind that makes you aware of your own breath. Before leaving, I crossed the street and brushed snow off Martha's mailbox. The flag had frozen halfway up. I loosened it, set it straight, and went back to my side of the road. Habit. Nobody asked, nobody noticed, but it felt like something worth doing. Inside the kitchen, light glowed against the window pane. A single mug sat in the sink, a ring of coffee drying around the bottom. I switched off the light, watched the room go dark, and listened to the house settle into quiet. Then I climbed into the truck, turned up the heater, and waited for it to breathe warm again. The road out of town was a thin gray ribbon through white fields. The snow on the fences looked like wool, and the barns stood silent with their doors shut tight. The Ford rumbled steady each mile, a soft vibration through the wheel. It took just under an hour to reach Milwaukee. The city lights glowed in the distance like a line of embers along the horizon. When I turned into Ryan's neighborhood, everything changed. The driveways were wide and spotless, lined with perfect hedges. Cars gleamed under motion sensor lights, each one newer than the last. I parked by the curb, away from the brightness where my truck wouldn't steal attention from the new ones. For a moment I sat there watching my breath cloud the glass. The brown paper box rested on the seat beside me, tied with a piece of old twine. For Ryan, written in my careful block letters. The kind of handwriting they don't teach anymore. The front door opened, warm light spilled out, and my son stepped into it. He waved, smiling the way people do when they're trying to hurry warmth into the cold. "Dad, you really drove that thing here. Guess it still runs." His tone was light, not cruel, but careless enough to sting. I smiled back small and steady. "Looks that way," I said. He turned toward the house, calling something to Isabella inside. Music drifted out with his voice, bright and quick. I followed him up the walk, the snow squeaking under my boots. The heat inside hit hard, thick with cinnamon and something floral. Coats lined the hallway like soldiers. He hung mine on a rack, polished enough to see your reflection. "Coffee's on the island, Dad. Help yourself." I nodded and took a mug from the neat row of identical white cups. The kitchen gleamed, every counter spotless, the kind of place that feels like it's waiting for a camera. I poured the coffee, stood near the window, and looked out. My truck sat under the streetlight, small and old paint, dulled by years of salt. It looked patient. Emma came running in socks, sliding on the floor, hair full of static. She held up a small reindeer made of felt and glue. "Grandpa, I made this." I crouched down, looked at it like it was something rare. "That's a good reindeer," I said. She smiled proud and whispered that it was going on the tree next to her dad's ornament. I knotted my throat tight in a way I didn't expect. Ryan appeared beside us, a plate in his hand. "Dinner's ready," he said, already turning toward the voices behind him. At the table, conversation flowed around me. Work, new houses, vacation plans. Someone asked what I used to do. I said I fixed engines. A short silence followed, polite and uncomfortable, before someone else asked Ryan about a deal he was closing. He spoke easily, hands moving, as if they had their own rhythm. I took another sip of coffee. It wasn't pride that kept me quiet. It was the understanding that some things can't be explained to people who never had grease under their nails. Later, Ryan leaned closer, lowering his voice so it wouldn't carry. "Maybe next year Dad will get you something newer." "This one still runs," I said. He smiled, unsure if I meant it as a joke, and moved on to refill someone's glass. When the laughter softened and the children drifted toward sleep, I found my coat and slipped it on. Ryan walked me to the door, phone still in hand, a smile ready, but his eyes already somewhere else. "Drive safe, Dad. Always do." Outside, the cold met me like an old friend. The snow underfoot was hard and dry, the kind that squeaks. I looked back once at the house glowing behind its perfect windows, then down the quiet street. The air smelled faintly of pine and exhaust. In the truck, the seat creaked as I sat. The leather was cracked but warm. The box waited beside me untouched. I started the engine. It hesitated a single heartbeat of doubt, then caught itself. The radio found a station on its own. A man's voice sang about coming home for Christmas. I turned the volume low until it was only a hum beneath the engine. The headlights stretched across the snow, carving a narrow path through the dark. I kept one hand on the wheel and the other resting on the seat beside the box. The road was empty, and the hum of the tires was steady, almost gentle. Some distances are longer than miles. I could feel every one of them. Outside, the snow kept falling quiet and steady as if it already knew what the road ahead would bring. The snow fell harder that night, thick flakes catching the headlights like sparks from a slow fire. The wipers pushed them aside, steady and patient, clearing just enough to see the road ahead. The heater breathed a tired warmth, carrying the smell of dust and pine. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the vent, and let the Ford find its rhythm. The road was mostly empty. The only company came from the low hum of the engine and the soft hiss of snow under the tires. I passed the exit for Miller Road and slowed a little without meaning to. Old habits. The garage used to sit just off that turn, the sign still hanging there, faded and half covered by frost. For a second, I could almost see the light still on inside. Then it was gone, swallowed by distance and dark. At the diner on County 12, the neon sign buzzed weakly, half the letters dead. I pulled in under a flickering lamp. The truck idled rough for a moment, then steadied. I turned the key off. The silence that followed was clean and cold. When I stepped out, the air bit into my face, sharp and honest. Inside the place smelled like burnt coffee and fried onions. A waitress stood behind the counter drying a glass with a towel that had seen too many nights like this. She smiled when she saw me, the kind of smile that says she's been there a while and seen enough faces to know who's safe. Heading home, she asked, reaching for a mug. "Yeah," I said. "Roads are still holding." She poured the coffee and slid it across the counter. "Haven't seen many old Fords out in weather like this. You sure it'll get you home?" "It's never failed me yet." Her smile softened. "That's good," she said. "Most things do until they don't." I took a sip. The coffee was bitter, the kind that burns a little going down, but stays warm longer. A man a few stools down looked over his shoulder. "I know you," he said. "You ran that shop on Miller Road, right? My dad used to bring his Chevy there." I nodded. "Closed it a few years back. Shame. You were fair with folks. Hard to find that now." He turned back to his plate, and I sat there with his words hanging between us. Fair with folks. I wasn't sure if that was praise or an obituary. When I stepped back outside, the wind had picked up. Snow moved across the lot like smoke. I brushed it off the windshield with my sleeve. The door hinges groaned as I climbed in. The seat creaked under my weight, the leather cracked but familiar. I turned the key once. The engine sputtered, then stopped. I waited a moment, tried again. The starter clicked dry, then caught on the third try, coughing like an old smoker before finding its breath. "That's it," I said quietly, patting the dash. "Still got a few miles in you." The road home was a long ribbon of white, framed by dark trees. The radio picked up static, then settled on a slow jazz station. A trumpet drifted through the cab, soft and far away. I drove slower than before. The lines on the pavement disappeared under the snow, but I knew the way. I had driven this stretch too many nights to need markers. The truck's heater finally found its strength. Warm air rolled out, soft as a sigh. The brown paper box on the seat beside me shifted slightly with each turn. I reached over and steadied it. The twine was still tight, the handwriting still clear. For Ryan. I had meant to hand it to him after dinner. The right moment never showed up. It wasn't much. Just my old wrench set the one he used as a boy when he pretended to help me fix things. Tools that knew his fingerprints before his hands grew into them. I wanted him to have them not for what they were, but for what they had seen. The snow deepened as I neared town. Streetlights appeared one by one, each casting a pale circle on the ground. The sidewalks were empty. A salt truck passed going the other way, its lights spinning slow, steady as time itself. When I reached my driveway, the house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch light glowed a tired yellow. I parked close to the steps, let the truck idle, then turned the key. The hum stopped, and for a few seconds the world was perfectly still. I stayed there, both hands on the wheel, feeling the faint vibration fade beneath my palms. Through the windshield, the snow kept falling, soft and relentless. The house waited patient as ever. I stepped out and closed the door quietly. The metal echoed once across the yard, then disappeared into the cold. I brushed the snow from the hood, my gloves leaving dark streaks. Inside the house smelled faintly of pine and coffee. I hung my coat by the door, turned on the kitchen light, and filled the kettle. The sound of water against metal filled the quiet, like a memory trying to find its way back. I poured a cup, took it to the window, and stood there watching the truck. Snow gathered on the hood again, hiding the places where the paint had given up. The porch light threw a soft halo on the steps. I could almost see Mary standing there smiling through the glass, waving me in from the cold. The kettle clicked off behind me, the sound small, but sure. I turned off the light. The room fell into that kind of darkness that feels alive, the kind that listens back. I took another sip, let the warmth settle in my chest. The silence came again, not empty, not heavy, just there, the kind that stays with you because it knows you. Outside, the snow kept falling steady and slow, covering everything that didn't move. I stood there a while longer and let it. The kettle had long gone silent when I stepped back into the cold. The air outside had thickened, white breath curling in front of me as I crossed the yard. The garage door groaned when I lifted it, a sound half mechanical, half human, like something waking from an old dream. The darkness inside smelled of oil dust and pine boards that had soaked up too many winters. I pulled the chain hanging from the ceiling. The light bulb flickered twice before holding steady, casting a weak yellow glow over everything I once called a life. The walls still wore their memories. Hooks that once held belts and tools now hung empty. The old sign leaned against the far corner, its paint cracked and fading, but still proud in its way. Jennings and Sons Auto Repair. The words were uneven, the paint thick where a small hand had pressed too hard on the brush. Ryan had painted the S when he was 10. He stood on a milk crate beside me, tongue between his teeth, trying to get the curve right. It wobbled a little, and he looked up at me worried he'd ruined it. I told him people liked a bit of truth in a sign. The garage had its own silence, not empty, but full of what used to be. I sat on the stool by the bench, the one with a leg that never quite touched the floor. The tools lay where they always had, still lined in the order I'd taught him. Wrenches by size, screwdrivers on the left, hammers closest to the edge. My hands remembered every reach, every sound each piece made when set down right. I had spent half my life in this room, teaching engines how to breathe again. The other half I'd been teaching myself how to. I reached for the top drawer. It stuck, then gave in with a sigh. The old papers were there. Contracts folded, notes, a photograph of Mary in front of the shop the day we first opened it. She was laughing at the camera, wind lifting her hair, sunlight catching the paint on the new sign. I kept the picture under the invoices back then, maybe because I couldn't stand seeing it every day after she was gone. The folder from the sale sat near the back corners, yellowed. I opened it, and the smell of old paper met me. Something dry, something final. 15 years ago, North Shore Auto Group had bought this place, and every piece of my name that went with it. I had signed the papers with a steady hand, though my chest shook inside. They offered more than it was worth, they said. I told myself it was time to let go. But the truth is I couldn't stand the quiet after Mary died. I needed the sound of engines and men talking over the clatter. I thought selling it would make the silence easier. It didn't. It just changed its name. Ryan never knew this garage was the start of Jennings Corp. He thought it was just a brand that had always existed, something born in boardrooms and printed on shiny brochures. I let him believe that. Maybe that was my mistake, protecting him from the truth that sweat and years are the ink behind every good name. In the back of the drawer, there was a letter folded once, edges soft from handling. I unfolded it slowly. My handwriting had grown shakier over the years, but I could still read the line that mattered. You built a future on my past. It wasn't anger when I wrote it. It was a kind of prayer that he might one day understand where he came from. I had never sent it. Some truths feel more honest when they stay unsaid. The space heater on the floor was rusted, but still working. I turned the knob, and a dull orange glow rose behind the wire grill. The warmth spread in slow waves, and I watched the light crawl up the wall to touch the sign. Dust hung in the air, spinning slowly in the heat. I thought about how everything given enough time finds a way to drift. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The number was from the clinic. The voicemail had come earlier, but I hadn't listened. I pressed play, holding the phone close. The nurse's voice was calm, careful, trained to sound hopeful. She said the doctor wanted to talk about my test results. That was all. No need for the rest. I deleted the message and stood still until the quiet came back. I walked to the shelf and picked up the tin box where I kept old keys. Inside, under a spark plug and a bolt, was one small key tagged with the number 004. The first repair order from the day the shop opened. I rolled it between my fingers. It felt lighter now, the edges smoother, like time had sanded away its purpose. I set it down next to the letter. The wrench set I'd meant to give Ryan was still on the bench. The metal case opened with a soft click. The sockets were lined up like soldiers still gleaming in their beds of molded plastic. My fingerprints marked the larger ones, his the smaller. He used to sit beside me pretending to work turning bolts that didn't need turning. I watched the case for a moment and closed it again. The hinge squeaked once, then went still. The heater coughed once more, and settled. I turned back toward the door, but before leaving, I touched the sign again. My thumb brushed over the crooked S. The paint had cracked, but the shape was still there, stubborn and honest. I smiled without meaning to. It was his letter, his mark, the one part of this whole place that would never fade. I turned off the light and stood in the dark a while. The truck outside was barely visible under the snow. The house beyond it glowed faintly from the kitchen window, a single warm square against the cold. For a moment I thought I saw Mary's shape there, the way she used to lean on the frame and wait for me to come in. The image stayed long enough to hurt, then softened like everything else time decides to take its hands off of. The wind pushed against the garage door once before giving up. I picked up the letter and slipped it into the toolbox right next to the wrenches. When the time came, maybe that was where he should find it. Not in words, but in work. As I stepped outside, snowflakes gathered on my coat and melted before they could settle. A car passed at the far end of the road, its headlights cutting across the yard, lighting the truck for half a heartbeat before disappearing down the hill. The sound faded, and everything went quiet again. I closed the garage door gently. The latch caught the metal, giving that small, certain click. For a moment, I stood there in the dark, listening to the world breathe, then walked back toward the porch light, leaving 2 uneven footprints in the snow that the wind began to cover as soon as I moved away. The morning light came through thin and white, touching everything like breath on glass. I stood by the kitchen window with my coffee, watching the frost on the truck windshield melt slow under the first sun. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the heater and the clock ticking above the stove. I set the cup down, opened the drawer, and took out the keys. They felt heavier than usual, or maybe my hand was just slower than it used to be. My fingers paused above the wood. The metal was warm from the light glinting faintly against the edge of the counter. For a moment, I wondered if I was ready to let them go. Not because of the truck. It was never about the truck. but about what it had carried all these years, the sound of her laughter, the grease on our hands, the boy in the back seat who once thought I could fix anything. I turned the keys once in my palm, then set them back down gently. The world would move either way. Outside, the air was clean and sharp. Snow crunched under my boots. I opened the garage, and the hinges moaned in their old familiar voice. The Ford sat quiet, patient, as if it knew what was coming. I brushed off the snow from the hood small circles with my gloved hand, and the metal shone dull beneath. I checked the oil, the belts, the tires moving slow but sure, each step, part habit, part goodbye. My chest tightened when I bent over to reach the filter, the kind of pressure that feels like the earth reminding you who's in charge. I waited until it passed. I wiped the dipstick clean and slid it back in. The oil line was good. The machine was ready. I opened the glove box, cleared out the old maps and pens, and set the envelope in the corner. Trust papers. For Emma. Inside were the title folded neat and the flash drive taped to a card. 1998. Me and Mary smiling in the workshop. Her voice saying, if he ever forgets where this all began, maybe this truck will remind him. I closed the glove box and rested my hand on it a moment longer than I needed to. The phone rang from inside. I wiped my hands on a rag and answered. Dad, my SUV's still in the shop. Mind if I borrow the truck for the weekend? Keys are in the kitchen drawer, I said. There was a pause, half a breath. Thanks, Dad. Drive careful. He said he would. I hung up, but my hand stayed on the counter for a moment after the call ended. The line had gone quiet, but the echo stayed soft, as the hum of the fridge behind me. Martha was outside shoveling the walk again. Her hat was tilted back, and her breath puffed small clouds in front of her. I stepped out with the broom still in my hand. She looked up and grinned. Still keeping that old beast alive, Walt. Trying to, I said. She leaned on her shovel. You really trust him with it? It's not the truck I'm trusting him with. She nodded like she understood, though she probably didn't all the way. Not many people do. I finished sweeping the walk and went back inside. The kitchen smelled of coffee and cold air. I poured another half cup, sat down at the table, and looked at the window. The truck sat still, the morning light crawling over its hood like a slow tide. My hand drifted to my chest again, where the ache had turned to a steady warmth. When Ryan showed up, the tires of his rental crunched against the driveway. He knocked once and came in shaking snow from his hair. He looked around like he was seeing the house for the first time in years. You sure you're okay with me taking it? I nodded. She starts best with a whisper on the pedal, I said. Let her idle before you move her. She likes patience. He smiled, though it looked more like relief than humor. Emma wants a ride when I get it back, he said. That'll be a good one. We didn't talk much after that. He finished the coffee I'd poured for him, set the mug in the sink, and took the keys. His fingers brushed mine just for a second when he reached for them. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. He went out, and I watched from the window. The door of the truck opened slow hinges, complaining same as they always had. He turned the key, and the engine coughed once, twice, then caught. The sound filled the yard in a way that made it feel alive again. The tailpipe blew a thin cloud that rose and drifted toward the street. He looked straight ahead, then adjusted the mirror just like I used to tell him to. As he backed out, the snow crackled under the tires. The morning light caught the chrome, and for a second the whole truck looked like it was made of memory. I could see the side of his face reflected faintly in the window, older, but still the boy who once sat in the passenger seat, legs too short to reach the floor. Then he turned the corner and disappeared. The sound of the engine faded into nothing. The air felt different after he left. Lighter, but not empty. I walked to the counter and set both our mugs side by side to dry. 2 circles, one smaller, one larger, resting on the towel like quiet witnesses. I put on my coat and stepped out into the yard. The snow had started again, thin flakes drifting down like they were afraid to land. The cold bit gently at my face, and I could feel my lungs stretch against it. I walked to the edge of the drive and looked down the road, but there was nothing to see. Only the tracks of the truck fading as the snow filled them in. I stayed out there longer than I should have, just listening to the world breathe. The wind moved through the trees, slow and even. Somewhere down the block, a door closed, and the sound carried. When I went back inside the house, met me with its usual silence. I sat by the window, the same one Mary used to lean against when she waited for me to come home. The light on the porch flickered once and held steady like a nod from something unseen. I thought of the road ahead of him, long and open, with the snow lifting off the asphalt in little ghosts. I thought of Emma waiting for her father to come back, and maybe one day to understand. I whispered almost without meaning to, "Let the road do what I cannot." The furnace kicked on in the next room, steady and low. I leaned back, feeling the warmth creep through the floorboards, and watched the light spill across the kitchen. Outside, the snow kept falling soft and certain, erasing the tracks 1 slow inch at a time. The house was still. I let it be. The snow came quiet at first, a thin drift over the porch light, soft as breath. Then the wind rose and turned it into something alive. It pressed against the windows, howled through the pines, and found the cracks in the siding that even time had forgotten. I stood by the window, one hand on the cold glass, watching the storm swallow the world. The furnace clicked off. The house went still. The phone on the counter lit up once and began to ring. The sound cut sharp through the silence, a single note in the storm. I reached it before the second ring, but it was already gone. A hiss of static, a faint crackle. Then nothing. The kind of nothing that makes the air feel heavier. I stayed there for a long moment, my hand still on the phone, until the quiet grew too loud. Then I moved. Coat from the hook, boots by the door, flashlight, gloves, and the emergency kit from the closet. I wrote a line on the pad near the stove and stuck it to the window for Martha. Out checking the road. Back soon. The kind of note you leave not for safety but for peace. The garage light flickered when I pulled the cord. The air inside smelled of oil metal and the faint memory of work. The Ranger waited cold but ready. I ran my hand across its hood, feeling the dust and the faint warmth from the furnace vent above. When I turned the key, the engine answered, like an old friend who never forgot your name. I let it idle while I gathered myself. Outside, the storm was already winning. Snow blew sideways, a white current swirling over the driveway. The headlights carved 2 small tunnels through the chaos. I eased the truck forward, slow tires crunching, the sound swallowed almost immediately. The road beyond town was a ghost. Each mile felt longer than the last. The wipers groaned across the glass, pushing against ice that formed faster than they could clear. The heater fought to keep up blowing dry warmth that smelled faintly of dust and rubber. The world was reduced to what my headlights could hold. Beyond that, there was only white. I tried Ryan again. 1 ring, then static. I sent a short message. On my way. Sit tight. Past the feed store, the plows had left ridges of snow that caught the tires. I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles pale against the leather. The radio hissed and caught half a sentence from a weather station, words about gusts up to 50 and visibility near 0. I turned it off. The storm didn't need a narrator. The ache in my ribs came and went like a tide, sharp, then fading, then sharp again. I pressed a hand to my chest and waited until it eased. I could still hear my doctor's voice telling me to avoid the cold to rest. I smiled at the thought. Men like me never really knew what rest meant. 2 hours felt like a lifetime when I finally saw them. Faint red lights pulsing slow and tired through the snow. The Ford was half buried on the shoulder hazard lights, blinking like a heartbeat fading in the dark. I pulled the Ranger ahead of it and left the engine running. The air outside bit through my gloves the moment I stepped out. The snow stung my face and filled the collar of my coat. I walked to the truck and brushed the glass with the back of my glove. Inside, Ryan was hunched over, eyes wide, lips pale. He jumped when I knocked. His face found mine through the fog of his breath. Dad. His voice was thin, carried on a shiver. I didn't think you'd come. You didn't think I'd stay. He exhaled a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. I opened the door and the wind tried to climb in with me. The air inside was colder than I expected. He'd done a few things right. The engine off. Hazard lights on. A blanket around his shoulders half covered in frost. Where does it hurt? Just cold, he said. The engine died and wouldn't start again. I didn't know what else to do. We'll start where we always start. The hood latch stuck, but I knew how to talk to it. I wedged the flat of my glove under the edge and lifted until it gave with a groan. Snow had packed itself into every crevice, a fine white powder that clung like gilt. I traced the lines by touch, air, fuel, fire, ground. The old rhythm. The clamp on the fuel line was loose. Ice had crept in and stopped what should have flowed. I worked at free breath, misting against the metal, and held the line close to the small heater from my kit. The plastic softened under my fingers. When I set it back, it fit better than before. Try it now. The starter turned. Once, twice. Then the engine coughed, caught, and held. The sound filled the storm with something like memory. The Ford came back to life, rough but steady. I closed the hood and leaned on it for a moment, letting the vibration move through my hands. Ryan stepped out beside me, still shivering. Snow clung to his hair and lashes. He looked younger than I remembered. You always make it sound easy, he said. It isn't. It's just right. He nodded, eyes flicking to the glove box. The corner of an envelope peeked out, the paper wrinkled from cold. He had found it, but hadn't opened it. His hand hovered near it like he was afraid it might burn. You found something. Yeah. Not yet. We let the engine warm while I cleared the windshield. He followed behind me, brushing off snow in uneven strokes. The storm had started to thin flakes, turning lazy, the wind quieter. We climbed into the Ranger, leaving the Ford to idle on its own for a while. We drove back, slow headlights carving narrow lines through the dark. He followed in the Ford, its low beams steady in my mirror. The two trucks moved like a single thought, one leading, one learning. The storm had softened to a steady whisper snow, settling back to earth like it was tired of fighting. By the time we reached town, the streets were half buried again. Street lamps glowed inside small halos. I pulled into the driveway, and the Ranger came to rest with a low sigh. The Ford rolled in behind it, its headlights cutting through the last curtain of snow. Then silence. Ryan stepped out first. The cold took his breath, and for a moment he just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at the two trucks side by side. His old life and mine parked together for the first time in years. Inside the house had kept its warmth. I poured coffee while he thawed his hands near the heater. The steam rose between us, quiet as smoke. He looked at the envelope on the counter, still unopened. "In the glove box," he said softly. "I found it there." "I know." He turned it once, then set it back down. "Not yet." We sat without talking. The clock above the stove ticked slow. Outside, the snow had stopped falling. Through the window, I could see both trucks, their hoods glistening under the porch light. The Ford still breathing out a faint curl of steam, stubborn as ever. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Thank you, Dad." "You called." He nodded. The quiet stretched between us, not empty, just full of what we didn't say. When he stood to leave, he reached for the envelope and hesitated. His hand fell back to his side. "I'll open it when she's older," he said. "Maybe with Emma." "That's a good idea?" At the door, he paused. The wind had gone still. The world outside was clean again, soft and pale. He stepped onto the porch and looked out at the street, the snow smooth as untouched paper. I watched from the doorway, my hand resting on the frame, feeling the grain of the wood. The porch light threw a warm ring around his boots. He stood there a long while, breathing the cold air like it might teach him something. Then he turned back, gave a small nod, and walked down the steps. The snow took his footprints gently, already beginning to fill them. The Ford started on the first try. Its headlights flared, then steadied, casting a glow across the yard. I watched until he was gone. When I closed the door, the house felt different. Not quieter, just lighter, as if something long held had finally been set down. I walked to the window and looked once more at the tracks fading under the new snow. The world was still. The road, I thought, had done what I could not. The house felt heavier than the wind outside. I closed the door and leaned against it until the quiet took hold. My legs trembled, so I let them, and Ryan's hand found my arm before I could fall. He didn't speak. He just guided me toward the chair by the window, where the light still held a trace of warmth. The storm had died sometime between one breath and the next. The world outside was soft, again white and harmless. Inside, the air carried the faint smell of snow and oil, the scent of every winter I'd ever worked through. Ryan crouched down beside me. His face was pale, the kind of pale that comes from more than cold. He said I should rest. I told him I was sitting, wasn't I? He smiled, small and uncertain, the same way he did when he was 5, and broke something he couldn't fix. The envelope sat on the table where he'd left it. Its edges had curled slightly, paper softened by time. He stared at it for a long moment, fingers resting flat on its surface. Then he looked up, waiting for a nod that never came. "You want me to open it?" "It's yours," I said. He hesitated, then slipped his thumb under the flap. The sound of tearing paper filled the room, a small, fragile sound, like something waking up after too long a sleep. He unfolded the documents and read them silently. His eyes moved slow, following every line. When he reached my name at the top, something in his expression shifted. He turned the next page and found Mary's handwriting. "Build with care. Drive with pride." He held the paper up to the light. My thumb traced the air in front of the ink, afraid it might fade if I touched it. Her handwriting had a steadiness mine never did. The words seemed to hum in the warm light. You built the company I work for, he said. Not built, started. He leaned back, the papers shaking slightly in his hands. His voice came quieter this time. You sold it, so you'd have a chance at something bigger. He didn't answer right away. He walked to the window and looked out at the street where the snow was beginning to harden under the porch light. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, and for the first time, I saw a little of myself in his stillness. Why didn't you tell me? Because it would have made it smaller, I said. Some things mean less when you explain them. He turned, his mouth parting as if to say something, but the words stayed caught between pride and regret. Then he sat across from me, hands flat on the table, palms open, as if placing down everything he'd carried. All these years, he said slowly, I thought Jennings Corp. Was just a name they came up with, something that sounded solid. Names are receipts, I said. You keep them so you remember who paid the price. He looked down at Mary's note again. His thumb brushed over her writing as though he could still feel her there. His voice softened. You did all this for me. No, Ryan, I did it because it needed to be done. What you do with it now, that's up to you. He nodded, but I could see the weight in his shoulders. Understanding doesn't always lighten you. Sometimes it adds gravity. He looked up again. You're sick. The word hung there between us. I didn't want to be another thing you had to fix, I said. He breathed in sharply, eyes glinting with something raw. How long? Long enough to know what matters. He pressed his palms together, elbows on the table, the way he used to when he couldn't solve a problem as a boy. His lips moved once before sound found them. I should have come around more. You're here now. I should have asked about you. You're asking now. He gave a quiet laugh that wasn't laughter at all. Then he leaned forward and picked up the envelope again. He flipped through the papers, then paused on the first page, the one that bore both our names, mine, as the founder, his as an employee of the same company. I watched realization settle in his chest like a slow tide. You kept my world running before I ever stepped into it, he whispered. That's what fathers are supposed to do. Keep the road smooth enough so their sons can learn to drive fast. His eyes filled, but didn't spill. He folded Mary's note carefully, as if afraid it might crumble, and slid it into his wallet. When he tucked the leather back into his pocket, it was like he was storing a promise, not a memory. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything we'd never said. The clock ticked. The heater hummed, and outside the Ford's engine gave one last faint click, the kind that happens after a long run. He stood and went to the sink, filled a glass, brought it back to me. The water trembled only slightly in his hand. You should drink. I took a sip, the cold waking something behind my ribs. My breath came short, but it was steady. The quiet held it for me. You're staying here tonight, I said. He didn't argue, just nodded and fetched the old blanket from the hall. He spread it across the couch, smoothing each corner the way his mother used to when she made his bed. Then he sat down for a while before lying back. You should rest, too, he said. I'll rest when I can't help it anymore. He smiled at that eyes closed, head tilted toward the faint hum of the heater. His breathing evened out, and for the first time in a long while, the house didn't sound lonely. I looked toward the window. The porch light still burned steady and patient. Snowflakes drifted through its glow, small and tired. Beyond them, the Ford sat quiet at the curb. It didn't need to say anything. My thumb found the edge of the table and traced the grain of the wood. The ache in my chest pulsed slow and deep, but it didn't hurt the same way anymore. Ryan was breathing. The storm had passed. The road outside lay still and open white as a clean page waiting for new tire marks. I closed my eyes and let the silence write what words never could. The morning came slow, quiet, as a held breath. Light slipped through the blinds, painting thin stripes across the floor. The air inside the house was still the kind that makes you listen without knowing what for. I woke in the chair, the blanket sliding from my knees, and the clock ticking like a soft reminder that I was still here. Ryan was on the couch, one arm over his eyes, his breathing even and deep. He looked younger in sleep, like the boy who used to fall asleep in the garage while I worked late. I rose carefully, letting the floor creak under my weight. The kettle hissed steam, curling like a thought that didn't need words. Morning had found its way in again. The days that followed came without hurry. The world outside softened as the snow began to fade. The roof dripped steady, the roads turned back to gray, and Ryan started showing up every morning. He brought his own coffee, a toolbox, and a kind of quiet that wasn't there before. He stood by the door until I pointed to something that needed fixing. He patched the leak above the back bedroom, climbed the ladder with his sleeves rolled up, and worked until the shingles stopped complaining. He missed a nail or two, then hit the next clean. I didn't say much, just handed him another and let him find his rhythm. He came down with dust on his jacket and a small smile that said he'd done something worth the day. When the snow melted off the driveway, he followed me into the garage. I was changing the oil on an old neighbor's truck, and he knelt beside me, waiting for the next tool. He didn't ask, didn't talk, just watched. When I needed the socket wrench, it was already in his hand. His shirt caught a smear of oil, and he didn't bother wiping it. He learned things you can't write in manuals. The way to tell a bolt's too tight by sound. How to hold your breath just right when you start a cold engine. How to keep your hands steady even when your heart isn't. By the end of that week, his palms had roughened. The clean lines of an office man had blurred into the quiet wear of work. When he smiled, it wasn't from pride, it was recognition. I saw it, and for a moment it felt like both of us remembered something we'd forgotten. One morning he stood by the kitchen window with his phone in hand. He turned it over once, twice, then set it face down on the table. He looked out through the glass at the truck sitting under a light dust of snow. "I turned down a deal today," he said. "They wanted to move production to a cheaper site. Numbers made sense, but the people didn't." I nodded once. That's what learning looks like. He didn't need a speech. He didn't need forgiveness. The silence that filled the space between us said more than words ever could. Emma came that afternoon with a notebook under her arm and tape on her fingers. She asked for a marker and went straight to the truck. I watched from the window as she pressed a sheet of paper to the door and smoothed it with both hands. Her letters were crooked and proud. Grandpa's truck forever. She stepped back to look at her work, grinning like she'd signed a declaration. I laughed softly. I guess it's official. Ryan stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, the other on the truck bed. His eyes followed the words, quiet, but full. Martha stopped by later with a tin of rolls and a nose for weather. She leaned on the fence and looked toward the truck. Her breath fogged in the cold. "Boys learn slow sometimes," she said, "but they learn right if you let them." I smiled. I suppose so. Inside the clock hummed, the heater breathed, and the day went on the way honest days do. Ryan stayed longer now, even when the work was done. Sometimes we just sat in the garage, sharing the kind of silence that used to divide us, but now held us together. He brought small things without a word. A new filter. Fresh bulbs for the porch. A notepad he never opened, just left on the bench, like a promise. Sometimes I caught him brushing a thumb against the pocket that held Mary's note. He didn't say her name, but I saw her there in the care he took the stillness he was learning. There were moments when the pain came back, sharp and deep, like something reminding me I was running out of time. My hand trembled once on the wrench, but Ryan caught it steady without a word. I didn't have to tell him. He already knew. That night the sky cleared. Stars stretched across the black like tiny scars that had learned to shine. I walked to the garage. The bulb flickered, then steadied. The Ford waited in its place, quiet, patient, carrying years in its frame. I slid into the seat and rested my hands on the wheel. The leather was worn smooth where time had passed through it. The key felt lighter than I remembered. My hand shook just a little, but when I turned it, the engine caught, steady and sure. Its rumble filled the room like an old voice saying, "Still here." Ryan appeared at the door, his face lit by the yellow glow. He leaned on the frame, watching, not speaking. Emma slipped under his arm barefoot, her socks half off her smile wide. She waved to me, and I waved back my hand, still resting on the wheel. I let the engine run a little longer. The sound rolled through the space, soft and full, like breath in a chest that's learned to forgive itself. Then I turned the key, and the room fell quiet again. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was kind. I looked at the paper on the door, her words still held. The ink hadn't run the corners, hadn't curled. I let her words settle on the metal. It sounded truer than anything I'd ever signed. I stepped out, shut the door with care, and stood for a moment as the cold met the warmth still lingering on my palms. The sky outside was pale with moonlight. The house glowed faint behind the curtain, alive with small movements. Emma's laughter, the clatter of plates, the world still going. The air smelled like motor oil and pine, the way every good ending should. I took one last look at the truck, its chrome catching the light, and smiled. Then I turned toward the house, the snow soft under my boots, the kettle beginning to sing inside, the night folded over itself quiet and complete, holding all that needed to be held. The kettle kept singing after I turned off the flame. Steam drifted through the air, soft and slow, like a thought that had lost its way home. I stood by the window, one hand resting on the counter, feeling the hum of the old house. Morning light slipped in through the blinds and touched the corner of the table where the title papers waited folded patient. Outside, the last snow had melted into thin silver lines that ran down the driveway. The Ford sat in its usual place, the sun giving it a faint copper glow. I could almost hear Mary laughing, saying I still polished it better than I ever did the kitchen floor. Maybe she was right. Maybe the heart remembers through the things our hands keep touching. The doctor's voice still echoed somewhere in me, quiet but exact. The word he used was soon. I didn't ask how soon. A man knows when time starts to breathe differently around him. I just nodded and drove home with the window cracked, letting the cold wind remind me what being alive still felt like. That afternoon, I drove down to the county office. The clerk wore a soft blue sweater and spoke gently, as if she understood the weight behind ordinary paperwork. I signed my name where she pointed neat and steady. When she stamped it, the sound was firm, final, and kind. I told her it was for my granddaughter. She smiled without asking anything else. Back home, I changed the oil in the Ford one last time. The smell of the garage was the same as always, metal pine and years. I ran my hand along the hood, felt the scratches, the small dents. I left them all. They were part of the story. I tuned the engine until it purred, not too smooth, just honest. Then I sat in the driver's seat, turned the key once, and listened to that sound fill the space like breath. I wrote the note on a piece of plain paper. No fancy stationery, just the kind that lives in kitchen drawers with rubber bands and pens that barely work. The words came simple. Son, if you're reading this, the road is yours now. It's not the miles that matter, it's the way you drive them. I folded it once, slid it into the glove box behind the tire gauge and a pack of old napkins. It fit there quiet and waiting. Spring arrived early that year. The air softened, the trees began to show a haze of green. Emma ran in the yard chasing robins that never stayed still long enough for her laughter to reach them. Ryan came by most mornings. He brought coffee, fixed what needed fixing, and stayed longer than the work required. He didn't talk much anymore, and I didn't need him to. Some things settle only in silence. One Sunday he helped me into the chair by the window. The day outside was clean and gold, the sky open wide. He said the Ford was running like new. I smiled and told him a truck like that doesn't run on parts. It runs on care. He looked at me, eyes bright but steady, and nodded. He knew what I meant. Later, when the house grew quiet, I sat watching the light shift across the floor. Dust moved through it, slow and alive. I thought about all the roads I had driven, the ones that led me home, and the ones I never meant to take. I felt the air press gently against my chest, not heavy, just enough to remind me I was still here. I closed my eyes and listened to the sound of the old clock in the kitchen. It kept time without asking for attention, the way good things do. The days after that came soft and without hurry. The world went on. Martha stopped by with her pie. Emma drew another picture of the truck, this time with stars above it. Ryan sat on the porch with his hands clasped, his shoulders quiet. The Ford stayed in the driveway, its paint catching light like an old coin. I liked knowing it was there. When my time came, it came easy. No thunder, no great pause. Just a breath that didn't need another after it. They told me later, or maybe I imagined it, that Ryan drove the Ford to the service. The engine was tuned, the chrome still dull the way it should be. After the prayers were said, and the air went still, he opened the glove box and found the note. He read it once, folded it carefully, and held it for a moment before placing it back. Emma climbed into the passenger seat, small hands on the dash. Ryan started the truck, and for a moment the radio hummed with static before catching a tune, an old jingle from years ago. Jennings & Sons Auto, built with care, driven with pride. He laughed quietly and tapped the dial. He looked at the road ahead. The sunlight made everything gold and forgiving. He whispered something no one else could hear. He was right. The old thing still runs. The Ford rolled forward, steady, the sound of its engine blending with the wind. The town grew small in the mirrors, the horizon wide and full. Emma leaned against the window, her reflection floating in the glass beside his. She traced her finger along the letters of my name on the dash, smiling. The road opened like a palm. The world softened at the edges. Somewhere in that steady hum, I like to think he heard me breathe just once, quiet, like a memory turning into light. And the evening shifted gentle as a hand on the shoulder. In that small hush, the world felt right.